Okay. Howdy, folks. Yeah, looks like we're up there. We're live. What's cooking, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday stream in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Kind of a chill stream today. Just found a few things to chat about and a couple things to show off. No big whoop, just coffee talk, although this is actually Diet Coke. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday morning without any problems. It's kind of chilly here in Vegas this morning. It's like in the low 60s, but there's a pretty good breeze going. I went out with the dog to the patio, throw him some treats, kind of sit and just relax. And it was not that relaxing. It's a little bit colder than I wanted it to be. Oh, I always hear you before I see you. Well, that's because I'm loud. But yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, I always wondered how it pops up because, I'm on this end, so I don't see what it looks like. So, what do we got today? What are some things that have popped up this week in kind of nerdy, geeky pop culture that we can chat about? Oh, it's a delay. Oh, okay. Mortal Kombat 2 trailer. So I watched it. I saw the other one they did too. Funny thing is, like, I was never really all that into Mortal Kombat. We had one of the consoles. What do you call them? The cabinets. We had one of the cabinets in our the office I work in at one point. So it was free play, and I'd go back there and play it once in a while just to get away from work for a minute. I was never like particularly good at it. I don't want to sit and memorize button combinations. Yeah, you're going to have to pay me to do that. But, and I saw that movie from, what would it have been? Early 2000s, with a whole group of guys. It was before, my buddy was getting married, and like he and the guys needed to be doing something while bride and attendants were getting all their stuff ready. So we went and saw the Mortal Kombat movie, and it was pretty damn goofy. So I don't really have a dog in this fight when it comes to Mortal Kombat, one way or the other. And that trailer looks pretty damn fun. That looks like a movie I might want to go actually see in a theater. That looks like a fun popcorn movie to enjoy. It looks like they have the right attitude, leaning into the stuff that's maybe a little bit goofy, but not treating it as satire, making it real, making it sort of, yeah. And I was kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, that's more what I wanted to see from the He-Man movie trailer. Now, that doesn't mean the He-Man movie won't have that, but I don't know that I saw quite enough of that in the trailer, but we'll see. But that looks like it might be a fun movie. I think it might do well. If they do a good job with it, I think that's kind of a movie that could cross generations, because obviously there's a nostalgia factor for some people with Mortal Kombat. But then you also have, if it's just like a good action movie, you could grab people and get them in to see that. Because, I think we're at a point now, like in the early 2000s, you can make a Mortal Kombat movie or Street Fighter movie that's a good action flick, but I don't know how many older action fans back then you would have gotten into the theater. Because it would have been maybe kind of like it's like one of those video game things. Whatever. I think that's not a problem anymore. Because your older viewers, like me, grew up on video games. So that's not it's not a turn off. That's not something where we'd go, oh, it's not a real action movie. It's a video game action movie. So I think you could cross over pretty easily, with the folks who love Mortal Kombat, younger dudes who just want a good action flick, etc. It could do pretty well. I have no idea what the budget was on it, so I don't know how how hard they're going to have to work to make money, but I think it could be a hit. It looked good, man. It looked like exactly what people have been asking other studios to do. Just give us something that looks like the game or movie, game or comic book or whatever. Make it fun. It doesn't need to be super intensely serious, although respect the characters, respect the more serious aspects of the storyline, right? And, like Marvel was doing that pretty early on, and then kind of fell out of it. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Maybe I need to check and see who the personnel is on it. Who are the folks who maybe cracked the code? Now, then again, it also hasn't been released yet, so maybe it gets released and people are like, "Oh, it was terrible. It was no good." I don't know, but good looking trailer. I also saw a story from Bleeding Cool. It was a story. It was an article by a fellow named Rod Lamberti, who I guess is a comic book shop owner in Iowa, God's country. And he had some thoughts on Free Comic Book Day. And I believe I've heard some people echo some of this in the chat, just on X, chatting with people about it. Last year was the first time I ever went to a Free Comic Book Day thing. I'm not afraid to buy comic books, but I'm like, I'll go cover it. Maybe I could talk about it on the channel, show what I got. It's fine. The one place I went to first had a big line, and I was like, because I had my wife and my daughter with me. I'm like, I don't want to drag them into like a long wait. Other place was more opened up. We went through, we grabbed a few things, and I bought a few comic books because, I'm not looking for a free ride or anything. So what this guy brought up, he said he's not in favor of it at this point. It costs stores money without bringing in long-term customers. And I'm sure that's true. One of the things I discovered when I first got into doing a little online publishing with that Nod magazine that I did, role-playing game stuff, my initial thoughts on it were, I'd started a blog. What if on a monthly basis, I just collect the blog posts into a PDF download? And once I got started messing with that, I realized, well, it's not exactly going to work the way I'm doing things. Maybe I should make it more like a little magazine. Yes, I'll do some of the articles. I'll fill them out, flesh them out. We'll do that. And I'm going to include a hex crawl from this campaign world I was playing with. And so I did the first one, and I put it out for free. And it did pretty well. I mean, for me, sort of an unknown, well, not sort of, total unknown. Put it out there, and I think I got maybe about 1,000 downloads, in a relatively short period of time. I thought, wow, 1,000 downloads, that's decent. If I could get 10% of those people to pay, then I could probably keep this thing going and do okay. I'm not going to make $1 million, but if you could get 100 people who are willing to pay, in terms of profit for me, it would have been about $1. Then okay, I do it quarterly. I make like $100 a quarter. But I could pay for some art, for the thing, and that'll be cool. It'll be fun. Maybe a little extra, left over to buy things. So I put the next issue out, and I want to say it was like $2.99 for the download, right? $2.99, not that much. There's a physical copy as well. What I discovered was about 1% of people were willing to pay $3 for one of these things. Now, keep in mind too, the production quality was not super high because I was brand new at this stuff, trying to figure all of it out. But still, it's like, it wasn't like 10%, it was 1%. So I sold very few of them. I kept on doing it because it was still mostly just for fun. So I get it. The market for free is exponential exponentially higher than the market for not free, even if by not free we mean extremely affordable. So I could see what he's saying there. Yeah, folks they'll roll in, they'll buy some stuff for free, get some stuff for free, and then they're done. There's a lot of folks that are going to be done. And your regular customers, who are already regular customers, of course they'll come through, but they're already regular customers. What they need to do is expand that customer base. If you think about it, it's kind of what's going on with a lot of the streaming channels, right? They're putting a lot of money into making shows that they put on their platforms. Now, we're not going to worry about quality at the moment and all that stuff. That's an issue. But the reason they're doing it is they need more subscribers. You don't have to pay to watch that show, but they're hoping you'll subscribe to watch that show. And it's not really working out. Folks will subscribe just long enough maybe to watch, the show, binge it in like a day, and then they'll unsubscribe. Or a lot of people are just like, I ain't going to pay for this thing. It's one of those issues because, well, it's why a lot of them are going to commercial. Back in the old network TV days, you didn't pay to watch Knight Rider other than you sat and watched commercials in between the acts. Not a big deal. That's why I think a lot of things now are going to a commercial base, which annoys people, especially because they're showing commercials to people who have subscribed. And they're like, I paid money not to do this, but dude, HBO, cable, same exact thing. You pay for cable. There's no advertisements. A few years later, well, there's going to be advertisements. Why? Because you ain't paying enough. And the advertisers will pay a lot more. And that's why. So folks, embrace commercial TV because that's how the system seems to function the best, So sort of the same thing with Free Comic Book Day. The other thing he brought up was also the folks who show up for the freebies, they don't spend any money. Now, like I said, when I went to the one place, grabbed, I think maybe 3 or 4 the freebies that I was kind of interested in, wanted to check out. Trying to think if I really liked any of them or not. I think a couple of them I might have thought were okay. But then I hit the back issues like I usually do. And, they had dollar bins and stuff, but I probably walked out of there spending $20 on back issues. My daughter got a manga. I can't remember what it was now, but that was probably another, I don't know, $10. So we spent a few bucks, got a few freebies. But it seems like most people just go in, grab the freebies, and they're out. So you're putting on this big thing, and you're not making a whole lot of money off of it. So you're not gaining regular customers. You're not selling anything that day. He said publishers like Marvel are now complicating things by launching separate free comic book days. Well, the whole point of Free Comic Book Day was to boost spending in comic book shops, which Marvel and DC and others were willing to do because they'd sort of already broke the model of comic books being in convenience stores, grocery stores, etc. So now all their eggs were in one basket, local comic shops, and if they start going out of business, you ain't going to have an easy time selling your books. So, okay, we'll do this Free Comic Book Day thing. That'll help boost them. Now, if you're doing your own separate things, that's not really helping, is it? So now you're maybe even taking away from the local comic shops. Not very smart. All right. The last thing he brought up, they're not making any real effort to boost the ongoing sales with Free Comic Book Day. So they're not doing things that would potentially lead to future sales. Maybe that would be, and maybe they've done this, but this is just like an example of what he might be talking about. Something tied in with Absolute Batman. The freebie, the free sample that might get somebody to go, oh, damn, I got to go in and buy some of this stuff, buy some back issues, buy the ongoing stuff. This is pretty rad. It needs to be things of that nature that aren't going to be more self-contained. Maybe they do that. Maybe he's looking for bigger things. I don't know. But anyways, I thought it was kind of interesting. And I've certainly heard those arguments made by people before. And a lot of it being customers who are like, yeah, I just avoid it now. It's not as cool as it used to be. It's crowded. It's not doing anything for me. When you set up a whole day for, look, everything's going to be free, you're going to get a crowd who likes free stuff, and they're not necessarily going to help your overall business. Free doesn't help a business. The whole point of a little freebie, coupon, whatever, is to stimulate regular business, not just, hey, we want to give some money away to everybody. It's not what they're going for. They got books to keep. All right, they got to be profitable if they're going to stay in business. Let's see. Other story that I thought was kind of interesting, and maybe something for folks to even look out for if you're a collector of comic art. Mark Evanier got $1 million worth of original artwork stolen from him. Now, this was also, I saw this reported in Bleeding Cool. You can probably find it elsewhere as well. Includes some rare pieces from Jack Kirby, Sergio Aragonis, Dave Stevens. Kind of crazy that somebody managed to pull this off. The entire list of stolen items has been released. So they're asking collectors, people who are on collector sites, to keep their eyes open for a piece that might have been stolen. You got to figure the people that stole it are going to be, well, maybe they're going to be more clever than that. They probably have their own non-internet ways of selling these things to unscrupulous collectors. But sometime down the line, those folks might resell some things that might pop up out there. So crazy though. And crazy how expensive or how valuable some of this stuff becomes. You understand why Jack Kirby fought like hell to get his original art back from Marvel. Like, you totally get that. That's important stuff. Not only because it's valuable, but I know that, what was the, Jeff D. I remember Jeff D., who did a lot of great D&D artwork, discovered that somewhere along the line, I think it was still TSR that did this and not Wizards of the Coast. Because I know the folks who initially, owned Wizards and all that stuff, I know they were D&D fans. I don't think they would have done this. I think it was the TSR people. They threw it all away. They threw a lot of the original art that these artists had done. They threw it away. Threw it freaking away. I think some of it was even rescued from dumpsters by some of the artists. I think they got calls from people within the company saying, you got to get down here. I think I remember reading that. So he was doing a thing, it was probably on Kickstarter back in the day, to recreate some of the art that he had initially created. And so I bought a few of those. Thor from Deities and Demigods, Morgan Ironwolf from the old basic set, and was it Osiris, Horus? I can't remember. One of the Egyptian gods. I bought that one too. Just a print basically, but they just threw them away. So if you're a comic book artist, you got to worry about stuff like that. Like, are they actually maintaining this stuff? Where are they keeping it? Is it going to end up destroyed? But very valuable stuff. And so now I watch the Graybeards art stream, and they'll talk about some of that stuff. You hold on to things because if you're a comic book artist, you're pretty much working freelance. You're not getting a lot of benefits. So years down the line, these are things you can sell to basically pay the mortgage, pay the rent, etc. And good that they're getting those things back. But then, yeah, they're valuable. So that means some folks out there want to steal these things. So how crazy is that? The other one, this was another story that got me. It's one of those where you're like, dude, if this is true, then why'd you do what you did? Okay, so what am I talking about here? Brad Winderbaum from Disney, in an interview, says that, hey, in actuality, the She-Hulk TV show was one of our best performing series. Because the interviewer asked, well, you're not going to, obviously do any more episodes of that because of all the people online who didn't like it. So first of all, let's get some things figured out. If you are a TV executive, and your TV show that you got out there is doing very well in the ratings, but a bunch of people on Twitter are making fun of it, and you cancel it, despite the really good ratings, you cancel it because of what some people online said, you're an idiot. And while I grant you that we seem to have an executive class in Hollywood that is made up of people that aren't necessarily all that wise, all that bright, I don't think even they're going to do that. All right? So no, Critical Drinker, Gary from Nerdrotic, etc., they can't just complain about something and get a very successful show canceled. They know that. They're not trying to, by the way, either. They're just giving their opinion. The reason it resonates is there's a whole lot of people who agree with it, who aren't watching the show. So I think he clarified, well, it crossed over to a non-Marvel audience, right? Okay. But not to the extent that it made up for the loss of audience that would normally watch a show like that. So, okay, it performed well with people outside your core demographic, your modern day audience or current day, whatever they call it, but you didn't replace the people you lost with enough of them for the show to be successful. Again, none of this has anything to do with the content or the quality of the show. That's subjective. People are going to like it or dislike it. That's fine. Doesn't matter. But the show costs money. You pay for the show with advertising, with subscribers nowadays on a streaming thing. If the show is profitable, you keep it going. If the show is not profitable, you don't. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. There could be a complex situation where it is a loss leader. We're not making much money on it, but it's producing a lot of merchandising that's helping us out or what have you. Okay, you can have an issue like that. But generally speaking, if it's profitable, it stays. And if it's not profitable, it goes. Just like that. So this guy is like, Man of War, what's up, man? This dude is like, he's acting like, no, it performed very well. Like, I don't know why it was canceled. Well, buddy, then bring it back. Order some more damn episodes. You're Disney. You're the guys who can order more episodes of this thing. But you're not going to order more episodes of this thing because it didn't actually do that well, ratings-wise. Yes, it may have been very popular with a certain audience, but if that audience isn't large enough to pay for the show and what it costs to make, and again, man, like, dude, I love Police Squad. I freaking love Police Squad. Police Squad got 6 episodes. You know why? Because as much as a few of us out there loved Police Squad, most people didn't give a crap. They weren't watching Police Squad. It had dismal ratings. It had to have, because it only got 6 episodes. Dude, when they order a series, and it was like a mid-season kind of replacement or a summer series, they'll typically order 12 episodes, 12, 13, and then maybe extend it to a full 26 or 24 or 26. That's what an old TV season used to be. Now, some shows, boom, right off the bat, it's getting the full 24, 26 episodes. There's confidence in it. Some, They do it the other way. And so maybe they only order 12 episodes. They run them. The ratings aren't what they want them to be. They put in a mid-season replacement. So there's a lot of shows like that I've covered that were one-season wonders. What was the one? Fantastic Journey was a mid-season replacement. I want to say Logan's Run was a mid-season replacement. Now, those are mid-season replacements that didn't ultimately do that well. But that's what they were. Some other show hadn't quite made it. Batman 66 was a mid-season replacement. That's why the first season is pretty short, even though it was on 2 days a week. So it's more episodes than it seems, but it was on for a short number of weeks. Did really well. They made the movie in the summertime. Movie did decent for them, didn't do great, but it did okay. They had the sets already. They had all the props. Why not make a movie? And then they did the second season, which did pretty well. And then it sort of crested and went back down. And then the third season didn't do nearly as well. Less episodes, okay. And then Batman, which was a phenomenon, got canceled. They didn't say, screw it, let's do a fourth season and a fifth season. It got canceled. Star Trek got canceled. It didn't have a finale episode. It got canceled. It was lucky to scrape up as many episodes in the third season as it did. It was canceled. Big shows that still resonate to this day were canceled. That's how TV networks worked. I don't care what you did last season. What have you done for me lately? That's what they're asking. And that's just how it goes. So She-Hulk, if it had done really well, it would have gotten another season. Just would have. Now, these are streaming seasons, which are like maybe 8 episodes. Different thing. They're almost like mini-series. But it didn't get it, And then the Star, said some stuff about Iger that I don't think they liked. And I have no doubt that Iger's still ultimately kind of calling a lot of the shots at Disney. So that precluded her probably coming back. Remember, they took her face off of some of their banners and things like that. They know She-Hulk's not going to be in the, new Doomsday thing and all that. Yeah, boy, they blew it. They blew it with She-Hulk in a big way. It could have been a very fun show. And it could have still been fun with a somewhat feminist message. There's smart ways to do that kind of stuff that can keep it enjoyable. But the people they had writing it just didn't, I don't think they were really cut out for writing that kind of a show. Didn't really know what they were doing. But at any rate, so this whole interview, and you're just like going, well, dude, make it make sense. It was our best performing series, so we canceled it. Well, then you're either insane or you're not really telling the whole truth. And again, apparently it was clarified. It did well with a demographic outside the normal demographic. But if you lose 1 million of your core viewers and gain 10,000 out of a different demographic, that's not well performing. It just isn't. And a lot of things have done that over the years. They court a new audience, they lose their old audience. Comic books, in a way, did that, right? Comic books had a core audience that was probably kids, maybe predominantly boys, but kids generally, from 8 years old to 12, 13 years old, about the time that kids start, becoming a little more grown up and discovering, the opposite sex and everything. And then comic books, I want to spend my money on looking good and trying to impress, girls or boys or whatever you're trying to impress. And that was kind of the core. Now, there were people who kept reading comic books past that point. They were collectors, and they started realizing that we can cater to those people and they'll spend a lot of money on comic books. But as they changed comic books to cater to the older audience, and as they moved the comic books out of easy reach of people, they lost the kid audience. And partly the kid audience was already going to other things like video games. It wasn't just their decisions. In fact, that was probably partly what they did. Well, we're kind of losing here, so we need to increase here. But by increasing here, we lost even more here. And so you don't see comic books selling the way comic books used to sell 50 years ago. They're nowhere near that level, even with a bigger population in the United States. So it happens. It's something that happens, and sometimes it works. Sometimes you take something niche, you make it mainstream. Your original niche audience is PO'd, but you sell a lot to the mainstream audience. Dude, I remember that Metallica Black album. I worked at the video store with a couple metalheads, one in particular, and I was like, I thought it was cool. I liked it, but I had the long hair, but I wasn't like a hardcore metal dude. I liked metal, but like I wasn't nuts about it. I wasn't like intense about it. And that dude was like, Metallica sold out, man. This is bullshit. He freaking hated it. So, okay, but here's the thing. Like, that's where you're losing 10,000 to gain 1 million, which sucks if you're in that 10,000. We were your supporters. We got you where you are. We were there for you. We loved your material, and you just threw us away. That's a shitty thing to do. But on the other hand, folks in bands, folks who draw, folks who do all that stuff, man, they're living on the edge. If they're not making money, they're not making money. There's no salary they're drawing that they can have a few bad, months. It's like, you got to produce. You got to save for retirement. You got to have enough money for medical issues, especially if you're, in a metal band. Potentially, you're going to have a lot of medical issues in the future. You go for that mainstream audience sometimes, and God bless the ones who don't. God bless the ones who don't. But you kind of understand why the other ones do. What they're doing now is the opposite of that. We're going to give up the mainstream for a niche audience. What's the line? Oh yeah, Black Album, the cracks are definitely showing. Yeah, see, I have enough normie in me that I was like, yeah, I dug it. Like, I dug it. And I dug the older stuff too. But dude, I was like, I'll be honest with you. I was a radio music fan more than I was a buying all the albums, going to the concerts music fan. I was always I was an easy music fan. What's on the radio? That's cool. Okay. And if I hear 3 or 4 songs from a band that I thought were cool on the radio, I might go buy the album and stuff. But I was not like a serious music aficionado. You notice that's an area of pop culture I don't really cover on my channel, because I know I do not have what it takes to get into big discussions about music. I listen to stuff, I like stuff, and I move on with my life. I'm a little more interested in the stuff that I do cover, where I'm able to go a little more in depth. No, I mean, not like super in depth, but, just enough to keep the videos flowing. But at any rate, yeah. So you get when they go mainstream. It's cool when people don't. Another thing I saw, I didn't sit and read the whole article, but from what I saw, like in the post, was that the creators, owners of ElfQuest had an opportunity to do a movie. I don't know if it was animated or live action. And it sounds like the people behind it wanted to make a lot of changes. And they said, nope, not going to do it. We're not going to do it. It's either got to be the way we want it to be, or it's not going to happen. And you got to respect that. But at the same time, if they were at a point in life where like they were in financial difficulties or, needed something, you could see where they'd go, all right, we'll allow the changes so we can get this thing made. And, I get where people get angry about that, but art's important, but people's lives are also important and kind of more important. Putting food on the table, paying hospital bills, the ability to retire with dignity, sending kids and grandkids to college so they can follow their dreams. Also very, very important stuff. So you kind of get that. That is true. We have met, sir. I know at the last one. Are you going to be at the meetup this year? I'm probably going to try to get to it. It's tough. They do them on Thursdays, which is like rough when you got a 9-to-5 job, but I'm going to try to swing by if I can. We'll see. Trying. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where we all are, right? Dude, we need more visitors in Vegas. Stop by, drop a lot of money. Because Canada's angry at us. I mean, they're not angry at Las Vegas in particular. Although some of the prices might have people angry. They're angry at America at the moment. And Canada was a big international market for Las Vegas. So it's been noticeable for sure. Where it's not like the strip's not falling into ruin with tumbleweeds going down the street. But yeah, some adjustments are now being made. They weren't so worried, it seems, last year. The visitor volume was down, but the gaming revenue was still okay. And I think taxable sales were okay. And this year, we've seen those start to dip. And it's like, oh, okay. We'll take fewer visitors with the same money. That's okay. But no, fewer visitors and less money, that's not going to do it. So stop on by, everybody, to Las Vegas and lose a lot of money and keep our taxes low. You're really helping us out here. We're like that. We're the libertarian city that has been built on a massive amount of government money. From Boulder Dam, Hoover Dam, to, I still call it McCarran International Airport because I'm not a fan of the guy that they named it after. For the reasons they changed it. It's like, dude, this guy said something but the new guy said the same kind of stuff. So anyways, so McCarran was expanded dramatically during World War II. It was Crockett Field, started by a descendant of Davy Crockett. We got Nellis Air Force Base. There's a few things. The heavy industry plants out in Henderson were originally built for World War II as well. So it's funny. We're like this seemingly libertarian kind of city where, hey, anything goes. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But this thing wouldn't exist without a lot of infrastructure paid for by the American taxpayer. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Yeah, YouTube Tabletop Crafting Canuck I used to watch religiously is U.S. Hate and Pan. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. And it's like, look, the thing with, because we've also seen this recently, right? With on Twitter, there's an automatic translator thing. So people from Japan can just write a post in Japanese and we see it in English and they see our stuff in Japanese. It's very cool. A lot of people chatting back and forth. And, oh, I love Americans. And you have to go, okay, well, wait a minute. There's a lot of Americans. We're all individuals. All Japanese are individuals. All Canadians are individuals. A wide variety of viewpoints. So you're angry at America, but like not every American even, agrees with what Trump has done or what have you. Some do, a bunch do, but not everybody does. The idea of liking or disliking an entire nation full of people is, kind of dumb. It's like, and more importantly, it's not like any of those people have the ability to change government policy on a dime. I mean, as we have all found out in every friggin' democracy on earth, voting massively for something or even supporting something in massive numbers don't mean you're getting it. Not if somebody else is cutting checks. So it's like kind of funny to be, that kind of angry at stuff. It's like, if you're angry at a politician or a particular policy, we'll be angry at that policy. But, don't dehumanize people for that kind of stuff. Don't dehumanize people. I mean, in the old days, you routinely hear Americans say during the Cold War is we don't like the communist government, but we don't have anything against just regular, Russians. They're just trying to live their lives. And in that place, they had no control whatsoever over the government, what it was doing. I mean, really no control, realistically. So it's like, our argument ain't with them. It's with their government. That's what we'd like to see, change. Likewise with Iran right now. It's the government's issue. It's not just, but there are individual Iranians who are, did some terrible, terrible things too that support the regime and we're more than happy to go out and hurt protesters and all that. Don't like those people, but doesn't mean I have to extend that dislike to everybody there. Doesn't make any sense. Got to deal with stuff on an individual basis in life, folks. It's the only way that stuff makes sense. You kind of cluster people and don't treat them as individuals. You you're gonna miss a lot of opportunities in life, and you're gonna just, I don't know, you're gonna have a lot of problems. And there's a lot of that right now. There's a lot of that right now, on both sides of just like, you don't dehumanize people. Dad told you. Dad's telling you right now. Don't dehumanize people. Take people as they are, as individuals. If they suck, then, then they suck. Get them out of your life. Can't say what he put on his other social media, but chat my arses. He put it in his actual videos. Yeah, exactly. Like, look, I try to keep the politics, religion stuff generally out, but I do mention things here and there. I try to do it in a more positive way. But I'll make a little joke, here and there, but I try to make those jokes more in the way that, Johnny Carson would do stuff like that. Not trying to get intense. That Dick Tracy video I just did, right? It was kind of funny. The pilot episode, the title was like, kind of like the destruction of NATO or something like that. I happened to be doing this video at the time where there's all these arguments and stuff about NATO and its future. So I said something like, well, it's a good thing that's not relevant in this day and age. It's a little joke. Is it political? Well, technically it's political, but I'm not like coming out and making an angry rant in the middle of my Dick Tracy video about pro-NATO or anti-NATO or any of that crap. It's just like, it's current topic. Make a little joke and move on, because the video is about the video. That's what you should be doing with your video. If you want to go online and discuss politics, go, but if your channel's not political, it's kind of silly to get political on your channel in a real substantive kind of way. It's one of the great things, dude. I miss, Google Plus? I miss Google Plus. One of the great things about Google Plus, I thought it was really, really, really smart, was that you could put different people in different circles, and people, when they posted, could also direct their posts towards different circles. So I'm following somebody on Google Plus who does posts about role-playing games, right? Maybe that person and me both have very different political viewpoints. But what we can do is set it up so that we're just seeing each other's role-playing game stuff. And we're not seeing all that other crap. And, but also I could, like, there's people who do stuff about comics and role-playing games, and I put them in one circle. Now there's political people, I put them in a different circle. I can direct my posts, my political posts, to the people in the political circle who I know might like it. I can direct my other stuff to the other people. They don't have to see my other crap. And it was a nice way to sort of be able to, like, hang out with people that maybe got different views on things, or they're into something, because maybe it's somebody who also posts a lot of stuff about, like, I don't know, professional friggin' volleyball. And I'm like, I don't really care about professional volleyball. I got nothing against it, but I don't care. And I kind of screen that stuff out. Like, I'm not going to have to see tons of that in my feed. I can just see the other stuff this person. I thought that was a great idea. And I'm kind of surprised nobody else has thought of doing it. So that, because I just think it takes the temperature down a little bit. And you might have a person who, like, you are perfectly simpatico on advanced D&D. Like, you're the best friends in the world on that. And in the meantime, like, one person is raging right wing and the other person's raging left wing. And that could destroy a friendship. But you know what? We can keep that stuff out and just focus on the stuff we both dig and stay friends. I think that's a cool thing, but that went away. Agreed. If it were in the vein of sarcasm or parody, wouldn't have given it a second glance. And you make, little trees, dioramas, and paint them in. Your screen is not required. Exactly. Know what it's about. Start a political channel if you want to discuss politics, if you want to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, you find stuff where it starts turning into that kind of like, which is basically what Hollywood has done. Like I said, in past videos, Hollywood always did. Most of Hollywood leaned left. There were always folks who leaned right in Hollywood. They were. And the left and those rightists sometimes put their politics in entertainment. But they tended to do it more subtly. So the story was still the story. And I can tell you that, you know, if you were not left wing and you're watching old TV, there were a lot of things you'd kind of roll your eyes on, like, okay. But generally speaking, the comedies were still funny. The dramas were still dramatic. The action was still action. And it was like, you just kind of, okay, I get it. We know where you stand, whatever. And you moved on. And they didn't press it super, super hard on things. I think from either side, it was very possible, if you're just a casual viewer back in the day, to not know what political side people were on. I will sometimes look up actors and actresses from old things. You know, I'm watching a TV show. I see somebody. Oh, I've seen them before, I think. Who's that? Okay, and then I'll look at, you know, like their IMDb. What else have they been in? What do I recognize them from? Maybe. But sometimes you'll look at them on Wikipedia and it'll say, this person was a lifelong Democrat, or this person was, you know, a supporter of the Republican Party and campaigned for Barry Goldwater and whatever. And you're kind of like going, had no idea. I didn't watch these people's performances and go, oh, I know what side they're on. It just didn't, it wasn't there. But now they're pushing it a lot harder. And what are they doing? They're turning people off. Like, dude, nobody has to listen to you. You know, if I started on one of these streams going into some weird screed on whatever, that was what, or just going off something just way off topic from what I normally do, then people would be kind of like, yeah. I'm just not interested. I'll move on to something else. I mean, even with some of the streaming stuff that I dig, you know, sometimes like whatever the current movie is out that everybody's talking about, I just don't care. I know when Dune comes out, there's going to be a lot of talking about Dune, and I just don't care. I got nothing against Dune. I hope everybody enjoys it. If they don't, I got nothing against them for not enjoying it. I just don't care about that discussion at all. So if it gets into like long stuff about Dune, I'll probably just tune out of those and come back and watch something later on. No anger involved, just it's not my interest, you know? So if people are interested in painting miniatures and your channel suddenly becomes, you know, all political all the time, or heavily political and angry, yeah, they're going to tune out. There's other channels you can watch for making, you know, diorama type stuff or making miniature trees or what have you. There's other stuff out there. They can go somewhere else. Don't alienate your audience. You know, doesn't make sense. And yet, a lot of people do. I get it. You get passionate about something and it's hard to hold your tongue. I understand. But at the same time, it's also probably not going to work out for you very well. Okay, a couple other little things on news, little news items. I saw that right now, apparently you can reserve a copy of, The Amazing Spider-Man by Steve Ditko Artist Edition at your local comic shop. So I didn't see any links or anything. I just saw a picture of a couple dudes holding up pictures, but this is like big, you know, big scale book. It's 192 pages. So if you're into Ditko, Spider-Man, I'm sure it's not going to be, you know, cheap. But you might want to go talk to your local comic shop owner, see what it costs, and maybe reserve a copy for it. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but it's coming out later this year. So you might want to check that out. Manowar says, the only thing that interests me in Dune 3 at this point is the potential 2.5 hour nap I can look forward to when it comes to streaming. Yeah, it's kind of like putting on those rain videos. You know, where it just, yeah, you put it on and it lulls you. The thing with me with Dune is I always looked at Dune like, oh, there's a lot here. And I don't want to devote the time and effort it takes. And God bless the people who do. And I know they get a lot out of it and they love it deeply. But it's sort of, I look at it right now as kind of like a homework assignment of just like, oh, I don't want to pick up that book. You know, I've got other stuff I'm doing. So I'm not, there's an old line from, oh God, some wit from the 1930s. I can't think of her name. Was it Dorothy Sayers? It might've been Dorothy Sayers. Who said to a person about friends, said, oh, darling, I I have entirely too many friends as it is. One of them's going to have to die if I'm going to add somebody else. Sometimes it's like that with with books, with movies, with like IPs. We'll just use that term of, you know, you go, this is a time commitment and a money commitment. No, I'm going to let this one go. I'm just not going to get into this particular thing. God bless it. Good luck. I hope you do well, but I'm not going along for the ride. I've already got, Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel Comics, DC Comics. They're all sitting in my back seat making a lot of noise, and that's all I can handle right now. I'm sorry. I can't let you in the car right now, Dune. Good luck to you. I hope you find a home. Lady Wendolyn says it looks bleak. I think it has that attitude too. She watched the Lynch one, and it wasn't for her. Yeah. Although my daughter is now interested in it because she's discovered there's a pug in the movie. Something for you to think about, Hollywood. Throw some more pugs in, and you just might increase your audience share. People love pugs. On April 14th, Hasbro Pulse is doing a Marvel Legends stream. I would presume they're going to be talking about upcoming releases. Probably not just, sitting around playing Twiddlywinks. Wait, not Twiddly, Tiddlywinks. I think Twitter was in my head. So you might want to watch that if you want to see what's coming out soon. Apparently they're teasing Jeff the Land Shark. Dude, I walk into a comic shop and I'm seeing this damn shark thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? And somehow my daughter, who does not actually really read comic books for the most part, like Marvel, DC, whatever, I mentioned it to her and she's like, oh, that's Jeff. And I'm like, how the hell do you know who this character is? And I don't, So anyways, that might be one of them. Obviously not one I'm going to buy. How much the pug in the movie? Well, that didn't exactly make sense, dear, but I'm sure it made sense when you wrote it. Yeah, autocorrect exchanges. Oh, yeah. Is the pug in the movie? I don't know. I have no idea. Ask the child. She would probably know. Manowar says, I did read the first 3 books. See, that's a bunch, right? But it's been well over 46 years ago. Never much grabbed me past the Lynch movie, which I do have a nostalgic fondness for. Yeah, you take a lot of this stuff as it is. I think one of the things that people are driving themselves crazy with is, and it's like a fandom thing, is like, this is my IP, and I have to love all of it. Like, a lot of the new Star Trek stuff, which for me is everything after the animated series. No. But a lot of the newish Star Trek stuff, I have no interest in it whatsoever. It does not sound good to me. It doesn't look good to me. But like, I don't have an anger towards it per se. Like, they're ruining stuff. It's like, it is what it is. It's a standalone product. Like, I can like the original series, and I don't have to care about anything made afterwards. Like, its existence doesn't ruin the original series for me. And people say, oh, but now they've changed it, so Kirk what? They didn't change anything. They made some stupid thing in a show or a movie, and if it doesn't match the stuff that they was originally made, then it's like fan fiction. It doesn't matter. Just ignore it. You can't change canon. I don't care if you own something. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. We're changing the canon. It's like trying to change history. No. You just decided to ignore what was already done because you wanted to do something else. Well, that's fine. And if other people like what you did better, then that's fine. That's the character now. I'm going to look at it and say, doesn't work for me. But like, it's not real. It's not like we're fighting over reality. It's all make-believe. So just like the make-believe crap you like and ignore the crap you don't. Folks, we don't have to get in fights over this stuff. Unless they're like pie fights, that would be fun. But, it's just my way I look at it. Like, it doesn't bother me. It only bothers me in as much as, you had the money, you had the time, you could have made something better, but you didn't. And again, if it found a huge audience, then I'd be like, well, good for them. Now they got something they like, whatever. It's fine. I'll just ignore it. but they didn't even find a huge audience. So it's like, yeah, you blew an opportunity. With Kurtzman, he had a lot of opportunities and he kind of blew those opportunities and shrank the audience for this thing, which I think would come back if they got something genuinely good that they really liked, but it's like, I don't look at it as sort of like, look, if somebody is doing something in Washington, D.C., a federal law that is actually going to impact my life, right? They're going to make it illegal to drive a car. That I'm going to get upset about. That affects me in real world. That's bad. Unless they're going to just drive me everywhere and I could just, read comic books on the way. That'd be okay. But if you go, oh, they've just changed it so that Vulcan is blew up. Instead, it's like, okay. And then, no, they wrote a story about Vulcan blowing up. I look at that story and go, that's silly. Planets just generally don't blow up, period. I don't know why that's even a thing. How many planets have they blown up now in the new Star Trek? Romulus, Vulcan. Dude, a planet blew up in Star Wars because it's space opera and they shot a big laser at it. Generally speaking, that's just not how planets work. You see, gravity gathers all these chunks of rock together and it pulls them together so tight that they all become like one big solid piece. Well, except there's, plate tectonics, and the pressure is so intense that it melts the stuff in the middle, except for an iron core, because the heaviest stuff goes to the center. So you got like an iron sort of core, and then you got the magma around it, and then you got the crust around the outside, kind of like a pizza. And that's a planet. And unless somebody planted like explosives in the middle of the planet, it just ain't going to blow up. Now, it could get pulled apart by gravity, maybe, if a rogue planetoid came between the Earth and the Moon back in 1994, right? That could maybe do some damage, but like just this idea, I don't know, maybe they should retcon the Star Trek stuff so that the Death Star shows up out of the Star Wars universe and blows those planets up. But anyways, hell yeah, I'm a nerd. But it's just like, yeah, don't get angry about that stuff, dude. Just hand wave it. It's whatever. It doesn't count. It's silly. Dude, I don't think a lot of stuff in Next Generation counts because of some of the changes they made that just don't make sense. I don't think some of the stuff that was canonized about the original series later on makes any sense. I got severe problems with some of their timeline stuff. In fact, this kind of feeds into the next thing I was going to talk about. Oh, the one other thing I'll bring up is voting on the Rondos is now active. It is an old-fashioned voting system. You do it by email. The Rondos are horror awards for just about everything. Horror hosts, movies, TV shows, books. There's tons of categories. So if you are a big horror fan, jump in, vote for stuff that you love. You don't have to vote on everything. You literally put it in an email and you send it to them. I love how old-fashioned it is. Of course, now we're talking about email being old-fashioned, but if there's only one thing that you love, like let's say you love Svengoolie and you want to go vote for him for horror host, you can just go, burp, that's what I'm voting for and nothing else. Now, technically, I do love Svengoolie, but I oftentimes vote for other horror hosts because Svengoolie's won like several Rondos. I think even Svengoolie's at the point where he's going, vote for somebody else for a while. Like, I've got a lot of these. It's cool, man. I get it. He's got the national audience, so it's easy for him. But I typically will vote for a different horror host just because I want to get other people out there. But at any rate, the Rondos are out there. So just Google it. You'll find the thing, and you can find the sort of ballot. Whatever you like, vote for. Why not? Give some Rondo. It's you know who Rondo Hatton, actor. He had acromegaly. So he had, kind of an odd shape. If you ever watched the Rocketeer movie, the one guy who shows up, who's bending people in half, based on Rondo Hatton, who is actually not a big hulking brute and apparently was an incredibly nice man. But it's it's a little bust of Rondo, and that's the award. So you might want to do that. Hey, Randy Butler, what's cooking, man? So topic, because I was just talking about Star Trek. So I every once in a while use Grok as a search engine at work. You got to be careful with those kind of things, especially for getting into complex questions. But usually I use it for simple stuff that would take like 20 searches on Google for me. I can just type it all into one thing and let this thing do it for me in a minute instead of me spending 20 minutes Googling things. But one day I was just playing around with it. And I said, based upon the transcripts of Star Trek, the original series, I already knew what the answer was, by the way. What is the most likely year or range of years that Star Trek, the original series, is set? Now, the official canon version of that is what? Is it 2265 is what they've come up with, right? Does not match what's in the original series for the most part. There are 3 pretty concrete references that get you close, not to an exact year, but get you close. So I asked that question to Grok, and it said, well, blah, 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 2265. So I said, okay. Using references to time past in the following episodes, and I gave them the 3 episodes in particular. Based upon that, on the actual transcripts, what people were saying, what year is it most likely set in, or what range of years is it most likely? I just wanted to see what it would do. Because mostly this is like just an experiment with how do you use this tool to get something that's actually worthwhile and trustworthy? How do you prompt it? What do you ask? How do you, I'm just kind of learning it because look, in my business that I'm in, this is something that's definitely going to impact my business. So it is something I've got to sort of learn to use to the extent that I can. I'm not going to use it to do my writing for me, and I'm not going to use it to do my thinking for me. But if I can save 30 minutes and have it just grab some data for me, then I'm going to do that because that's 30 minutes back to me to do the thinking and the writing that I need to do. So I said, okay, here's these 3 episodes. And it goes through all of that and says, based on these, the most likely time period the original series is set would be, it's like somewhere between 2165 to 2190 something, right? Which, by the way, is correct because the 3 references you really get, you get the one with the episode with Lincoln in it. It's mentioned that it's about 300 years after the Civil War. Okay, which was in the 1800s, so we're in the 2100s. You get it from Khan, that it's about 200 years since the 1990s, and you get it in the one where they've gone back in time, and they're on the Air Force Base, and the sergeant says something. The guy who's caught Kirk says something like, "We're going to lock you up for 200 years," and Kirk says, "Well, that's about right, actually." Based on those 3, it's probably the 2100s. And by the way, when you do that, what that also means is Zephyrin Cochrane, who invents warp drive, was a baby boomer, which is kind of cool. He's not some dude who lived some point unknown in the future. He's somebody who is actually contemporary with Star Trek, when it was being made in the 1960s, which is kind of cool to me. Anyway, so I was playing with that. So, but then, Ramey says, I wrote the CEO of Paramount and told him I can fix Star Trek in a 190-minute episode. He hasn't responded yet. Dude, let me know. I'll throw in a couple ideas too. What if they did something like the crew of a spaceship goes to another planet and meets a interesting civilization there and gets into some difficulty that requires a little bit of thinking about, philosophy and like what's right and what's wrong and how do we deal with this complicated situation and resolve it in a way that's not just outwardly violent. Something like that might just work. Just maybe. But who knows? Beware the data returned. Have seen it. Oh, yeah. Oh, it does. Absolutely. That's so when I was talking with somebody in the corporation I work with about this, we were talking about AI because obviously a lot of younger people are going to use this to lean on. We're seeing that a lot in colleges now. They're not reading books. They're getting summaries of books off of AI. It's not good. And I said, and he termed this as Stater's Law, which I rather liked. I said, if you're going to use whatever AI for a task like this, you damn well better know it very well. You need to be an expert on whatever you're doing if you're going to use AI, because you need to be able to look at what comes out and go, well, that's obviously not right. So if you don't know anything about the topic or the subject or what have you at all, you can't trust it. But if you know the stuff, then you could use it as a shortcut. Like one thing I've used it for is when I enter companies into a database, I need to know basically what the company does. And from a government standpoint, we have two things, the SIC code or the NAICS code. SIC is Standard Industrial Classification. NAICS is the North American Industrial Classification System. It's something we did with Canada. Two different number sets basically kind of mean the same things. And it's a way for me to organize companies on broad stuff like manufacturing versus, transportation and warehousing versus retail, whatever. But I need to get those numbers and put them into the system. If I'm just doing one company, just do a quick Google. Put in the name of the company, SIC code, and usually I'll get the information. Sometimes if I know basically what the company does, I'll just put that in just so I can get the official code that goes with it. Then I'll do the same thing for NAICS. It takes a few seconds. But if I needed to do it for like 20 companies, it's easier to go into whatever, Grok or Copilot or whatever, and say, please look up the SIC and NAICS code numbers that go with these companies, put it in a table format or something like that. And then it can go through and find all this stuff. And then I can still kind of go through as I'm entering it and go, saying this is a manufacturing company, that does not sound right to me. And then I could look at that one specifically and go, no, okay, it picked up a wrong name or something like that. But for a lot of them, especially if they're larger corporations, easy stuff to pick out, and it can do it in about 30 seconds. If I got to search for 20 companies, it's going to take more time. So it's just a time saver. But that's because I know what I'm doing, that I can catch the mistakes. So you're totally right on that. You got to know that. Okay. And you can trick AI into, oh yeah. Well, because that just happened recently. Somebody was on some AI and was trying to get access into the Mexico, like the federal government of Mexico's computer system, or he wanted to just download a bunch of data from it. And what he found was, like, the AI would say, no, I can't do that. And he just kept asking and asking and asking and asking and asking. And eventually the AI went, okay. And this dude got like everything. He got all their records, stuff that he shouldn't have seen. He just badgered it to death. I don't have time to do that. And I don't really need Mexico's records, but anyway, yeah, you have to be careful. And you're right. Also, it likes to kiss your butt. So there's technical stuff you can use it for, but you got to know your material when you do it. Like with that Star Trek thing, I knew what answer it was going to give me, but I also knew what those references were. And when I gave it those specific references, it took a long time trying to resolve it, because it's going, well, but this site says it's this, but all these references. And so it finally came out, and I copy pasted it. And I was going to talk about it maybe on a stream or something, or a video. It finally said, yeah, you're right. It should be this. That doesn't make any sense. It's got to be this. So, at any rate, point is this. AI exists. AI potentially is going to be a problem for a lot of us. I'll probably lose my job to it someday as I get older. I kind of know this. It's one of the reasons I have a YouTube channel, because obviously I should be able to make millions of dollars. No. But, and it's something that does threaten creative people, etc. And so in the last week or so, I went down sort of in a little rabbit hole playing with Grok. I'm sitting I think it was on the patio, about a week or so ago, maybe a little more than that. Just goofing around. I'm on Twitter, I'm looking, and I follow a lot of comic book people, and they post covers of comic books. And this one particular cover comes up, and I don't know why in particular, but I copied it into Grok and said, can you make this photo realistic? I just don't know why. I could have done it with anything. I just did it with this. And that's what came up. A old Superman cover, number 12, where he's walking arm in arm with a couple of GIs. And I'm like, that's kind of neat. That's kind of fun, you know? And then, of course, I go, what else could... So I went down a rabbit hole on playing with... I'm not going to show most of it because it's other people's art. I'm not going to pretend like I created anything. And I literally, all I wrote in was, can you make this photo realistic? No other directions, nothing. It's just for me to enjoy. But I will show one other cover, and I'll show one thing in a minute that I did because I was just amazed with how it came out. But like, there's an old issue of Crack Comics with Captain Triumph. It's more public domain, but that's kind of what you can get out of this thing. Now, is there any monetary value to this at all? Almost certainly not. I suppose if it was a public domain comic book, I could conceivably, try to sell prints of that or something like that legally. I guess. I don't know. I don't know that I would sell anything in particular, what have you. But if you're playing with stuff that's not, that is copyrighted, you can't do anything with it whatsoever. You just can't. But what I discovered, and this is a thing I hadn't thought about so much with AI, was I was thoroughly entertaining myself with this nonsense. It's just dumb. But I think what was doing it was just like, well, we see these comic book movies and we're like, damn, I wish it actually looked like the comic book. And in a weird way, this is sort of like, almost like cosplay. It's trying to make it look like these are the comic book characters, but they're really, real. And of course, for the most part, it won't change the costumes. It will a little bit sometimes on more popular characters because of the images it's going and stealing from. I also noticed it likes to put a 5 o'clock shadow on Superman. So if you're doing a Superman cover like this, follow up please make this photo realistic with period, no beards, period. And then it won't do it. If you get the subject thing back and say, please remove the 5 o'clock shadow, every time it will remove all the hair on Superman's head and he'll be bald, which I suppose is kind of entertaining in its way. So at any rate, but what it got me thinking about was, there's a hobbyist element to AI that maybe I wasn't really thinking about, and maybe others aren't either. I think a lot of our discussions, and again, in the business I'm in, this is something we do too. We look at it from the business angle. What can businesses use AI for that will maybe put people out of work, that will flood the market with AI slop, whatever? People will talk about someday, so you can just type in a prompt and it'll give you a 2-hour movie. And that's going to take over. And then I don't know if anything like that's ever going to happen. But what I do know is I spent a lot of hours just goofing around on Grok with this nonsense. And it was kind of entertaining for me. It was just fun as an individual, totally for personal use, not sharing this stuff, just personal use. It's like social media in that regard, right? What did social media do? Among other things, it gave people something else to do rather than watching movies, watching TV shows, reading books, reading comic books, etc. For the most part on social media, it's just a lot of people chatting with each other about stuff. Hell, texting is kind of the same thing. Texting shows up and you get people just talking. But if they're what they're not doing? They're not watching media, whether it's corporate or whether it's indie. If they're scrolling on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever, they're not watching this other stuff. And it's one of the things that's impacted our audiences. if they're goofing around on AI, they don't have to produce professional quality stuff, but it might still be entertaining to them. That's going to be something that takes audiences away from other things. So it's something to keep in mind if you're a creative, that this stuff can impact your audience in ways that maybe you haven't considered yet, of just as a time waster. Because that's kind of what this is. This is a time waster. It's just me having fun, goofing around. And 90% of it is just me finding a cover and going, I wonder what this would look like, and you do it. And then you go, oh, that kind of sucks, actually. Yeah, I really did. And then you find another one. I wonder what this will look like. Oh my God, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah, you got that pretty good. That's all it is. It's just sort of like, I wonder what this will do. I wonder what this will do. But it's a time, and obviously there's lots of other people wasting their time with AI in other ways, but something to keep in mind. And I think from say an artist's point of view, a lot of artists obviously do not want to use AI in their work, and I 100% support them with that. If I was still publishing books, and maybe I will in the future, I do not plan to use any AI art in them. I would hire artists, and I would expect those artists to actually draw what they're doing, and I'm going to pay them because that's what I prefer. Now, there are going to be artists who use AI. God knows. If you're, again, kind of talking about selling out, if you're a commercial artist and that's your livelihood, right? You're not working another job or something and doing it on the side. You're going to use this stuff. One of the things that it's actually kind of good at is basically being mega easy Photoshop to do easy stuff. I know people in my industry who work in graphics will do that. They got a photo of a building, but there's like phone lines in front of part of it, or there's, something like doesn't look as good as it could. In the old days, they open it up in Photoshop. They'll take those phone lines out. So it's a better image that they could put out like on a brochure or what have you. Nowadays, they're just going into probably something more like Copilot or Chat, whatever. Hey, can you remove these phone lines? It does. It takes 3 seconds. You get the same thing you were going to get before. It just saves you time. And in a corporate sense, you want to save time, so you get more done. There are going to be commercial artists who do that. But if you don't want to do that kind of stuff, what I would suggest is you might want to play with the tools, though, just to see like what menial tasks you have to do that you could maybe make go faster with this stuff, so you have more time to draw, to improve your skills, to do whatever, because that's what your passion is. Can you use this other stuff to take up some of the crap you don't like? Again, being careful with it, but maybe you could use it for marketing. If you're not very good at writing copy, you could say, hey, give me a punchy little thing that I could say that I could put on social media to advertise the book I'm working on or something like that. You're still going to have to play with it a little bit, but maybe it could do part of that work for you, because you're not a marketing person. You're an artist. You want to draw. You want to write a comic book. This is not the stuff you're into. Maybe look at some of the stuff it can help you with on that, so you can focus on doing human-made, genuine art, because God knows we need that. And we're going to need a lot more of it as AI slop, like the thing I'm playing with here, gets on out there. The other thing from a hobbyist standpoint I was going to show, so this is this wasp action figure. I'm sitting on the couch. Just for the hell of it, I was holding it like this, basically. Let me see if I can do it. I was holding her foot. I held it up towards the ceiling with my phone and just took a picture of it. And then I went into Grok and I said, hey, could you remove my fingers from the picture and just put like a sunny sky behind her? There it is. Now, again, is there any commercial value in this for me? Not a bit. There's no commercial value at all. I have used it on a couple thumbnails when I had to take a picture of action figures to just put a background. What I used to do, because I don't even have Photoshop, I would go into paint.net, bring the photo in. I would cut the action figures out so I have a transparent background. Then I would go into Microsoft Excel. I would bring in a public domain image of whatever, put it there, bring in this thing. Excel actually does pretty good, basic, simple graphics work if you needed to. Put it in front of it, copy paste them back into paint.net, cut out what I need to cut out, and that would be what I would use. It would take probably about 30 minutes of my time, and it was not the greatest, quality in the world. So I don't know which one it was. I think it was with the Red Tornado and Blackhawk figures. I'm like, could I just have it do something in the background for me? And it did. I just put a stormy sky in the background. We're good. It's public domain, at least whatever it's generating. It can't be copyrighted, which is fine. But it put a background behind the two action figures. I put it on my thumbnail. That's it. Now, I did tell it, do not alter the action figures at all. I don't want that imagery altered. I want that to be real. I just want a background behind them and do that. But when I did this, I'm like, that's kind of neat. It kind of looks fun. And I thought, there's a lot of hobbyists out there who collect action figures or who knows what else, who could probably entertain themselves with this too. Again, there's probably no commercial value to it whatsoever. Maybe you could get on some, online thing and upload your photos. There are people out there who do work like Manowar was talking about with building, backgrounds to do real photograph work. I don't want to get in their way. I don't want to try to pretend I'm doing what they're doing. This is not stuff that I would market in any way, shape, or form. But you know what? It's kind of fun to do. So maybe I can grab, a picture of, or grab a photo of Ultraman here and put something behind it just for my own personal entertainment. And I think that's something that people need to start considering, is the amount of just time wasting people can do with these things. Let's look back a little bit in the chat. Raimi Butler. There's the Kissassery. Absolutely. Raimi says, been thinking maybe AI might want to give me $1 million. That would be cool. Maybe you could just ask Grok. Hey, could you have Elon, wire $1 million into my bank account? And it's going to say no. But if you ask it another 100 times, maybe it'll finally just say, oh, okay. Who knows? It's $1 million. Elon's not even going to miss it. He'll be cool with it. He likes Grok. Rainbow Village says, have you seen Mr. Beast has a deal with Nintendo? I did not. I don't know too much about that guy. I'm aware of his existence, and that's about it, which tells you something. He's like one of the biggest things in, online, and I don't hardly even know who he is. Oh, what's he doing with Nintendo? He's like, just for marketing type stuff. Like he's going to endorse a product. I mean, if people like the dude, and then he should endorse a product, what the hell? I mean, if he's got a lot of people who hate him, then it might be a bad idea. Remy also says, got Google AI to make a banana with horse legs with an inch or wire. Exactly. You can do weird stuff like that, right? If you want, you can just goof off with this thing. So there is the business aspect of it. But I think there's just a whole, like, people goofing around, wasting time aspect. And I think when you get nerds involved and geeks, that's when, okay, for example, I wouldn't do this. I don't have the time, but I can imagine somebody taking like Amazing Spider-Man #1. And if you got a scan of it, you could grab each individual panel. And with some of this AI stuff, you could animate it. So here's a panel where Spider-Man is, I don't know, punching, somebody. I'm trying to think who he was dealing with in the first issue, but I don't remember. We'll just say Electro. You got some panel where Spider-Man's punching Electro. You could say, hey, animate this. Use, maintain the Steve Ditko style, right? I just want to see Spider-Man actually punch Electro. And then you do the next panel and the next panel. And if you string them all together, hey, look, I just made an animated cartoon based on an old comic book. Now, can you market that? No, not that people won't. They'll put it out there and get copyright struck and everything for it. But if you're just doing it for yourself and you have the time, you can probably do something like that. And, maybe it's something you've always wanted to see. I don't know. But you can imagine just a lot of people goofing around with stuff like that. Raimi, my son stopped selling his art because of AI. Yeah. And hopefully he'll stick with it, though, because you're going to have the initial surge of all this crap. And hopefully it'll get clawed back. It's sort of like a lot of people will go to They'll buy like, Wonder Bread or whatever. It's mainstream. It's done in a factory. It's relatively cheap. But there are still people who will go to an actual bakery and buy the fresh baked bread. Artisanal, they'll oftentimes call it. I think we're going to go somewhere like that there is going to be mass-produced AI music and probably TV and movies, things like that, video, art. And a lot of people are going to like it. And for them, they don't have a real big artistic sensibility. It'll be just enough for them, and they don't care. They want it in the background. They don't care. And then there are going to be people who give a crap. And I want to see actual humans doing actual work, and I want to pay them for it. It'll be a little more expensive. Not everybody's going to be able to afford it necessarily, but that's what I would rather have. And I think that market will still exist out there. So don't give up just yet. Right now, you're getting hit full in the face by the winds of this change. And they'll die down. And what you're going to find out, and this is true with almost everything, every time a big change washes over, there's remnants of the old world left behind. It doesn't wipe everything out. There are, in fact, still people out there who are blacksmiths. That's what they do with their livelihood. Not a hobby. They actually are a blacksmith. There's not a lot of them. There's not as much demand for it at this point, but they do exist. So, and that's a wave of technology that came over 100 years or so ago, more than that probably. It still exists. So keep to your art and keep building your skills and get it out there. Draw because you love it, and you will find a customer base for it. Is it going to be big enough that you can live off of it? Not necessarily, sadly. Look, I published a lot of role-playing game books, and I had a fun time doing it, and I had a regular 8-to-5 job as well. I wrote my off hours. I don't make enough. I still make money off the books, but I don't make enough to live on. Not even close. Now, I also didn't market the hell out of myself and all that stuff. I did it because I loved it. I made a few bucks, but I have a regular job too that I had to maintain. And I think a lot of folks are going to have that, but hopefully they'll do the art as well. And maybe they'll hit it big and they'll find it. I think there's going to be some changes. I think a lot of people are already disillusioned with that stuff who are younger. Believe it or not, they're disillusioned with it. I have a feeling people just goofing around with it for their own personal enjoyment might end up becoming bigger than the market for this stuff being pumped out on a corporate level. I think it's possible. But there will be some people who just don't care. They just don't care. They'll listen to anything. It's just what they do. Let's see. I need some backers. Rich Angels from $1 Million Making Play to take off. Lady Wendell says, does not care anything I've seen of Mr. Beast. Yeah, I've only seen him a couple times. He's kind of an odd looking fella. I'll say that. Man of War says, when I run out of cash, I just open another Monopoly set, just like the Treasury. And that's why our money is just about as valuable as Monopoly money at the moment. Let's see. Candy has the Mario movie. Really missed with the AI music covers. They were great. Yeah, there's going to be that stuff. Raimi says, don't like him either. Pelican Dream. So I'm going to show one last thing I did with that photorealistic thing. I added one thing to this particular prompt. Here's the image. It's a famous Alex Raymond line drawing of this woman. She's got, and I think it's from a Rip Kirby comic, if I remember correctly. Got the cocktail, got the cigarette. I thought, I wonder what it would do with line art. So I said, hey, can you make this photorealistic? And then I added, make it look like a 1940s photograph. That's it. Those are the two things I put in. And what it produced, I thought was pretty damn good. I was like, holy crap. That actually does kind of look real. So some things it does well on, and some things it is terrible on. It can't handle it. I have discovered Robert McGinnis art, like from book covers, it's really good at. It's really good. But a lot of stuff, if it's really kind of photo, almost already sort of photorealistic in the shading and all that stuff, it doesn't do much with it because it's so close already. It kind of does better with flat images. Like, for example, this, you don't have a lot of shading, grading to it, etc. It's it's black and white, pretty simple. And then it can add the detail on its own. If the detail's already there, a lot of times it doesn't do much. So if you're looking for something to waste your time on, there it is, folks. It took up a lot of my time, but it was fun. It was just fun to goof around with. And it was something I hadn't considered. The fact that you can just use this stuff to waste time, but that does take you away from spending money to waste your time. At some point, all this stuff's going to get a lot more expensive, though. Okay, let's look at some coming attractions. This is from McFarlane. These are their new what do they call it? Page punchers. They're up for pre-order next week, April 15th. So I'm guessing they're hoping for people getting tax refunds and then spending that money on their collectibles. But they got The Martian Manhunter, which I think looks pretty darn good. That looks pretty good for old John Jones. Then they got Bloodwind. Now, I'm only aware of him because I was collecting Justice League International under its various titles. Last year I did the whole, 52 weeks of JLI. But I did collect some of the stuff after that point, and that's where he appears. And if you know, then you know why he's also being released along with Martian Manhunter. And then we get Miss Martian, which is a character I know nothing about, but you can detect the theme that McFarlane is working on. And therefore, the next character they're releasing is, Robin. Has nothing to do with those three. But we are getting, if you're big into the Martian Manhunter family, maybe you could use the term, you get Martian Manhunter, Bloodwind, Miss Martian. And then a very cool Robin figure. I think the Robin one looks pretty darn good. I think the Bloodwind one looks pretty good, pretty accurate to what I saw in the comic books. So not bad looking. Again, I don't know much about that character, so I can't really judge it particularly. These will probably be, I'm thinking $35, $37 in that range. I think that's what they charge for those. So if you got a burning desire to own any of those figures, April 15th, you can, claw some money back from the Uncle Sugar and then hand it to Uncle Todd. Big Bad Toy Store also has up for pre-order 1/6 scale Apollo and Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica for the low, low price of $350. No, not for the pair. That's for each of them. So, look, I'm a big fan of Battlestar Galactica, but that's a lot of money. And they look decent. I don't know if I'm looking at that going, that's $350 worth of action figure. But, if you got the bucks, look, like I said, a long time ago, me and a buddy were talking about a guy we worked for. I think an action figure just fell over on a shelf. I'm not sure. Anyways, we were talking about this guy we worked for who just bought a new, I think it was a Porsche. And he's like, dude, man, that car's expensive. Can you imagine? I go, do you know how much money he makes? Him buying that Porsche is like you or me going out and buying a 10-speed bike. It's all relative. So there's some folks out there that $350. One of the real actors you could get to stand around. The other one, not so much. But yeah, some people $350 is just no big deal. It's chicken scratch. For me, that's not the case. So I wouldn't do that. Miss Martian, Raimi Butler says, was in the Titans cartoon. Yeah, I knew she had something to do with the Titans, and I think I'd seen pictures of her somewhere, but it was like kind of after my day, comic book wise. And Bloodwind kind of was too, but I just happened to, since I was already getting a bunch of the Justice League stuff, I filled in a few out of a dollar bin, and I'm like, oh, don't know who this dude is, and I read along, and then I knew who he was. Also, I think this was also a Big Bad Toy Store. If you enjoy mazes and magic dances, you got a pre-order up for a set of Labyrinth figures for that movie's 40th anniversary. They're $17 each. I believe they're like the 3 3/4 inch size. Done by a company called Plastic Meatball. They're supposed to arrive the second quarter of the year, which we are now in, so I would say relatively soon. You got Jareth, the Goblin King there from the Masquerade. You got Sarah in her masquerade dress. You got a 2-pack with Toby and a Goblin. You got Sir Didymus and Ambrosius. And it looks like there are a few more on the way. Yeah, Hatch has passed, yeah. They don't look that great to me, honestly. I think even if, maybe if I was a Labyrinth super fan, I'd probably grab these, but I got to be honest, just looking at Jareth, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not mega impressed by those. On the other hand, they're done in the old Star Wars style, and if you look at the old Star Wars figures, realistically, you'd be going, yeah, that's supposed to be Harrison Ford, so it also might even be one of those things where you got to pay more for the actors, image, and so you just kind of go for something close. But anyways, they're out there if you want to check them out. $17 a pop, not terrible, but not great. But speaking of cheap action figures, yeah, they do look a little rough. We've seen these are official images released of Mattel's DC line. So these are the guys who are taking over from McFarlane. I believe that'll start I think McFarlane still has it this year. Next year, it's just going to be Mattel. I got these images at Toy News International. You might want to check it out. Flash, Batman, Robin, and Joker. Now, here's the thing. When I first look at them, I'm going, well, I'm really not that impressed. But these are not collectibles. These are for kids. These are actual toys. They're $13 each. So they have these are going to be mass produced. Although that probably also means that like 50 years from now, they're all going to go for $5,000. But yeah, so Mattel looks like, now they may be doing some collector stuff as well. I don't know. But initially it looks like they're trying to get stuff out for kids to play with, which frankly is a good thing. That's what is going to build. If you want the DC universe to build up and get a cinematic universe and sell more comics and all that stuff, this is the kind of stuff you need. They might look better if you actually get an up close look at them. But when I just kind of looked at them, I was like, they're fine. But then, all right, $13 and they're for kids to play with. Very acceptable, I think. Very acceptable. So that's the first we've seen of that. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff coming. Oh, you got to see the DC Sonic crossover. Boy, they do. They love the crossovers nowadays. I swear they do. Because they were doing what? Turtles crossed over with, what the hell was it? It was something weird. I was like going, oh, Hello Kitty, I think. I'm like going, what? But dude, if it sells, it sells, right? All right. I got one other thing. That's a coming attraction. I thought it was kind of interesting. This is on Kickstarter at the moment. It is a comic book, Hybrid number 1. It's actually pretty close to $30,000, so it's not doing too bad. 56-page book. On the crowdfunding page, they do show off a lot of the interior art, which is a big thing for me. You'll get these things with really cool covers, and then you look at the interior art and you're like, there's probably 2 or 3 campaigns a week that I'll bookmark it, like on Twitter. I look back at it later and I actually go to the page and I'm like, yeah, that's not actually, I'm not going to talk about this. That cover's great, but the interior just is not quite where I want it to be. But the interiors on this look pretty good. $10 digital, $20 for a physical copy. It is part of the Project Neosis. I think that's how you pronounce it. Kind of universe, which I've heard of. I'm not super familiar with. But the art, again, looks pretty good. It might be worth a look. And maybe you want to look at some of the past stuff they've done. Written by Brandon Gingle. Art by Luke Dockery. Coloring Sakshi Rao. And lettering Nate Nielsen. Of course, lots of covers to choose from. So you might want to check that one out. And that's what I got for a Batman Shadow toy. Interesting. Shadow was the first thing that Batman was ripping off, if we want to be super honest, literally tracing over some shadow art. And then after year one, it started kind of ripping off Dick Tracy. Couple things I'll show off here. Only one of them new to the den. Where do I put that? G.I. Joe. They're doing their retro series. I have permitted myself to buy some of the retro figures that I actually owned when I was a kid. So I'm keeping a lid on this one. But this is Zap, Bazooka Dude. He just showed up. Looks pretty darn cool. Let's maybe get a close-up of old Zap. He's got the stash going. I love that some of the figures had mustaches back in the day, which, you know, I kind of grew up after the original G.I. Joes. I kind of now understand, oh, it's because some of the old G.I. Joe figures had the mustaches and stuff. That's probably why, and beards. And that's why some of the new ones had it as well. It's an interesting little continuity. But that one showed up this week. I think it was actually last weekend after the stream. But looks pretty cool. And I did just order the one Grunt. So I'm just going to let myself have a few of the ones that I had when I was a kid. I'm not going into the whole thing. The other thing I wanted to show off, and I did show these when I first got them, but I've actually gotten to read them. Kamandi. Dude, Kamandi is a freaking awesome comic book series. I know a lot of people already know this, but I've only read a few. I'm looking through these and I'm just like going, oh my God, what Kirby was doing. Here's the cover. This one, they're in Chicago. So they're dealing with gangsters and apes. You get this splash page after page one in all of them. There's so much there to just focus on and look at. And then you get a little more story, and then usually then you get another sort of splash page. The last gang in Chicago. Dude, just get some close-ups. Oh, there we go. Oop, there. Got to move everything opposite direction. I always screw it up. This thing is almost like a combination of the Star Trek gangster episode and Planet of the Apes. Amazing stuff. And the dude's like, you could almost say Thundar is just like a takeoff of Kamandi. It's kind of sad that this never got its own show. Although Kamandi did show up in Batman Brave and the Bold a few times. There's another one. This is involving intelligent dolphins. Let's see if we can find. I think there's a really good splash page in this one. Well, this is just this is a great page. It's not a 2-pager. There we go. With all these guys trying to save this dolphin from radiation, poisoning. But the whole dolphin society and how it all works, it's just great. I've said this before about Jack Kirby. The dude, he would invent more ideas in a single issue of a comic book than some entire series have managed to invent. That one page, you're seeing this dolphin city. They kind of live on the outside, and the humans are on the inside. And the dolphins just swim up and use their noses to push buttons to get the things that they want. And, you know, some of the stuff is kind of like, it's corny. It just is. It's corny. But at the same time, but it's also so impressive. Look at this art. That's a killer whale. The killer whales and the dolphins are like at war over the sea. And he, of course, gets caught in the middle of it. Just look at this. Oh, and by the way, trying to make Kirby photorealistic, it's bizarre. It doesn't work very well because he's so stylized. So just so you know. But look at this. Dude, this is just a cheap comic book. Look at this friggin' page. Well, 2-page spread. Excuse me. It's just amazing. Look at this one. This is Kamandi. He's that dude's fired these like spears past his head, and he's just waiting for one of them to hit him, and it ends up taking out the dolphins that he's riding on. And but he wants revenge because that dude killed a dolphin he was becoming friends with. It was a little bit sweet on him. Look at, come on, Moby Death, and the way he ends up sort of surviving that angry killer whale is really kind of impressive as well. Interesting writing. And then we'll look at this one now. Just a couple. I just want to show some of this art off because I'm reading these going, this is amazing. Like, dude, I would take these as posters if I had wall space in a heartbeat. And these aren't like, the most important images ever from comics. This is just Jack drawing a monthly book, doing what he wants. The Exorcism. And by the way, yes, you're looking at this one going, oh yeah, Jack saw The Exorcist, and that colored what he was doing in this particular issue. He saw Planet of the Apes, obviously, at some point, and that kind of fed in as well. Look at that. Evil One. The flames, etc. This one little boy gets possessed by this thing, which, by the way, never super well explained exactly how that's working. But who cares? Like, with Jack, the art is so great. I don't know if there was another big image of this one or not. I don't think there was. Was there something else, though? Oh, yeah, this is the other thing that got me. The advertisement for Duke. It's like the action dog. I'm like, oh, dude, I got to get on eBay and see if any of those exist out there. I just want to see what it actually looks like. Anyhow, I got these out of a dollar bin. They're in minor rough shape, but not bad shape. But like, dude, so amazing. I've gotten a few Commandi, and I'm reading these now going, yeah. I passed a few up here and there, like, well, I'm not really... And now it's like, oh, it's tempting, man. The work he was producing in that one, it's really, really spectacular. It's amazing. A lot of great world building and stuff, too. Would make a great cartoon series. Thundar is proof of that, because Thundar's almost like Commandi grown up. I mean, he's not. It's different characters, but close enough. Very, very similar stuff. So, just wanted to show those off. Let's catch up with the chat. Ramey says, there's a guy on YouTube making a Doctor Who motion comic using David Bowie. That's cool, as Doctor Who. Yeah, I know he was asked to do it, and I think he could have been an interesting Doctor. I think that would have worked pretty good, actually. Commandi's really good. I'd imagine doing the same to Ditko would be wacky as well. Yeah, I did do one Ditko image, and it was like, eh. So like the rules I found are the closer the art, you want the art to be relatively simple line and color. That helps. Although, again, the Robert McGuinness stuff is not. It's painted, etc. And boy, it produces an incredibly realistic image. Like you'd come away with some of that going, you could convince me that was the model that he used for the painting. Except it's too close, but really good. But most of it, line and color works great. If it looks like people, it looks a lot better. If it's very stylized, like Kirby, I just did a Kirby picture of Captain America, and it just looks bizarre. It just textures everything, but it's his, it's his shape, so it's bizarre. And Ditko is not as good either, but a lot of them, if it's pretty normal body shapes, it can do a pretty good job with it. I think it helps if there's not a lot on the page as well. And one thing I noticed too, because I follow Marcus Kelligrew on Twitter, and he posts romance comic covers. So I tried one of those, and those come out pretty darn good. But again, it's because it's regular, real people. And all this thing is doing is it's going through a bunch of photos to look for something very similar in pose or whatever, and it's cobbling stuff together. Real people, there's going to be a lot of photos out there that it's trained on. Superheroes and aliens, not so much, so it's going to maybe have a little more trouble with those. But again, some of them really interesting. And a couple of them, There was one. It was Power Girl #1, limited series they did back in the 80s when they were kind of reintroducing her into DC after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? Not as revealing a Power Girl costume as they would later have. So, it wasn't too crazy. But what got me is it did the thing and did a pretty good job with it. And I looked at the face and I'm like, wow, kind of looks like Marky Post. And I looked back at the image. I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty close rendition of that face. But once it becomes like real, you start seeing actors in it. Now, I don't think it was basing it off of Marky Post's face. It's a coincidence, but you're kind of going, oh, well, yeah, actually, Marky Post could have played that role. That would have kind of worked. So there's a few, pardon me, that Crack comics with Captain Triumph. When you kind of look at it closer, I was like, kind of looks like Buster Crabbe. Buster Crabbe could have done a Captain Triumph serial back in the old days. That would have been pretty rad. It would have worked. So you do sometimes notice like, oh, this picture, this drawing kind of looks like an actor or actress, but I hadn't really noticed it yet. But you compare the two and you're like, yeah, it didn't really alter anything. It just tried to make it look like a person. But there were a couple where you're going, oh yeah, I kind of see that now. And again, the other rule is if Superman's involved, make sure you say no beard, because 5 o'clock shadow for the most part just doesn't work on Superman. There's a few comic covers where they do that, but for the most part, clean shaven, square jawed hero. But yeah, so anyways, folks, I think that will do it for Dad's Den. Oh my God, I almost went 2 hours on this one. And this is one I thought, I'll maybe get an hour out of this and we'll see. So, what do we got here? So Ditko, Ditko is amazing. That's something else I think maybe artists can get from this is, if you're starting out and you're drawing something and you're going, it's not quite right. Like, it's not quite right. I'm looking at stuff done by Kirby or Ditko or some other people, maybe a little more stylized, even like Dave Stevens. And you're going, their stuff looks so great, But if you make some of their stuff photorealistic, the first thing you notice is this doesn't quite look like a real person. The first thing is, with a lot of drawings of women, the eyes are too big for like an actual human being. And you might get some insights into, oh, see, I'm trying to draw it too much like an actual person. If I alter it a little bit, if I exaggerate certain things, it actually looks more real as a drawing than it would as an actual photo of a person. If I looked at that person in real life, I'd be like, oh, they're kind of oddly shaped, but it works in a line drawing or just, a comic book. So I think there's things that artists can use this for that don't involve using it for their art or replacing their creativity or anything like that. I think there's tools like also looking up references. You need like a picture of a 1980 Dodge whatever. You could do a search on Google and roll through. You might be able to do it like in an AI thing and say, can you find me an image of a blah, 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 and I want it to be this color, and I want it to be, 3/4 view, blah, 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 blah. And it might be able to just go out and find one of those things for you, and if it saves you 20 minutes, that's 20 minutes extra you have to draw. Something artists, I think, need to be conscious of now, is how they use their time if they're going to compete out in the marketplace with a lot of quickly generated crap. Ramey says, kind of like a novel series, I was writing about a cop dealing with aliens. He says, all the animals and plants were aliens from other planets, and the cop had to deal with them. Yeah, okay. Does anybody have a Duke Dog toy? I wish. Marky Post was a pretty good, yeah. Marky Post was, she was okay. She was all right. Used to watch Night Court a lot, and yeah. Yeah, anyways, so, boys and girls, I think that will do it for Dad's Den today. Me and the wife got to go out and get a smog check on a car, so we got stuff to do. Thank you, everybody, for dropping by. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Ramey and Man of War, and of course, Lady Wendelin. Really appreciate y'all being here. Oh, Buck Rogers Marky Post. Yeah. All right, dude, my wife's on the stream, so come on. Don't get me in trouble. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that was quite a costume they had her into. Buck Rogers, man, I don't know. I don't think you could do some of the Buck Rogers stuff now and get away with some of it. They pushed the boundaries a little bit, but damn, is that a fun show. I just rewatched it not too long ago, and I'll rewatch it again. That's a fun friggin' show. All right, folks, that'll do it though. Next week or this week, I have Thor number 350 on Monday with my 52 weeks of Thor. On Wednesday, I'm going to do a review of a very cool animated movie from 1926. Not animated in the style you might be thinking, called The Adventures of Prince Ahmed. I saw it a long time ago, like on TCM. Stuck with me. I knew I wanted to do a review. I finally put it together. You might want to check that out. And then on Friday, I don't know. I don't actually have anything planned at this point. I think I'm going to do a board game review. I don't know what yet. I need to make videos today, or I'm not going to have anything out this week. So with that, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. And I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye, everybody.